pilots, welcome back to Motion RC. I'm James, and today we're doing an unboxing, assembly, and an overview of the AL37 Airliner from Freewing. We debuted this bad boy down at NAL in the fall, which is an event at the Triple Tree Aerodrome last October, and man oh man, once people started getting their hands on these models, we can't believe what we've seen from this airliner. I mean, we were obviously Freewing. You don't see many airliners in the foam electric. You've seen them in the past, but it's definitely a risk that was taken to do this, and I think the risk paid off when you see all these amazing custom liveries that people have been doing with their airliners. Everything from, you name it, any scale airliner probably of all time has almost been completed for this model, and man, it's just been overwhelming to see it. And now finally I got one in the studio to be able to do a proper build video, because I was only outside at that event and we never got a chance to really build it like this in here. So for the purpose of our unboxing and assemblies, if you've never joined us before, what we'll be doing is 4 sections. The first section will show you how it came out of the box, so piece by piece you can get an idea of what you're looking at, because it is incredible that this entire plane fits in a box that's only about that big. I mean, when I heard about this and they were sending me the box, I expected it to be one of the largest boxes of Freewing planes, but some other jets have boxes that are bigger. So that surprised me, amazing how they fit it in here. After we do the unboxing, we'll go over the specs, so that'll just be a detailed list of what's powering this AL37 airliner. Then after that, we're going to go through a step-by-step assembly, so we're going to follow the book, but there are definitely some things in the book that I would do differently or aren't clear maybe in the book, so just follow along if you're getting your airliner now and you want to use this video to help you build. And then at the end, we'll have it here. It's already plugged in, and we'll just walk around it a little bit, show you some close-ups, drop the gear, show you what's inside, talk about the CG, and then we'll wrap this video up. So guys, let's get started with the unboxing. So now, taking your airliner out of the box, you're going to notice how beautifully packed, like every Freewing model is nowadays, this airliner is, and it's incredible to me how they got so much plane in this box. But when you take off the top part, you're going to see your wing halves. Now, each wing has everything pretty much installed on it. Your landing gear is going to be there. You can see where your ribbon cables are going to connect to. You can see the part where the nacelle itself will screw into. That's a plastic molded piece. If you did get the version that's not blank white, you're going to have the decals, the wing walk graphics already applied, like mine. And you'll see even the ball links are installed on the control horns, so you really just need to do the rods when you get to that point. And on the tips of the wings, you can see that that's where you're going to put the wing tips are going to slot in like you do, like they would missiles on most Freewing jets. That MWS railing system is what it's called. Pulling other pieces out of the box, you have your big vertical stabilizer, and if you have the Motion RC version, it's already going to come wrapped, which is nice. I couldn't imagine trying to do that on my own. Steve Hodges did this for us while we were at Joe Nall, because we didn't have a wrapped version. We had to put it on ourselves, and that was no easy task. But you see people are doing it with the blank white versions, and more power to them. You get 2 horizontal stabilizer pieces. Then you're going to get your baggie, and inside your baggie is going to have your ribbon cables, going to have your screws, it's going to have some glue, it's going to have your control rods, about 9 of them I believe in there, but we'll get there in a second. Now, taking off the top part of the box, we get to the bottom half of the box, and that's where the entire fuselage and the nacelles live. And you can see how beautifully packed it is. So again, it's a 2-piece fuselage, so you're going to have to glue that bit together when we get to the assembly. But everything looks really nice. You can see they did the decals on the back of the tail already for you, that accent piece, and that is, thank goodness that's done, because again, another hard thing to do is wrap an aircraft fuselage like that. Then you also have the nacelles, and you can see the motor's already installed, and they look really beautiful. They do have a hatch, so if you ever wanted to replace the motor, you'll have no problem there. And you can see it's just going to take 3 screws to get these on the wings, and they're already labeled for you which is right and which is left. So guys, that'll do it for the unboxing. Here are all the pieces out on the table. Now let's go over the spec. The spec of the AL37 Airliner, she is 2,000 millimeters long. So that is 78 3/4 inches. It has an 1,830 millimeter wingspan, or 72 inches. Again, inside you have two 2150 kV brushless Outrunner motors are in the nacelles, and those are being run by two 60 amp ESCs with BECs inside. Those fans inside are 12 bladed fans, so she gets a good nice whoosh when you hear her with those more blades, and she has 10 servos throughout. Now the material, the foam, as you'd expect, is EPO foam. And then some of the other things around here, we recommend battery-wise anywhere from a 4,000 to a 6,000, but we've already seen guys who've taken it past that 6,000 milliamp battery life. It all comes down to the type of battery that you are going to use to fly this. Of course, we recommend our Admiral batteries for this. She has beautiful mains on the landing gear. Those are not trailing link, those are just suspension, but with the nice two big tires on the front, more than enough to carry that weight, and you have trailing link nose gear inside. You have 11 LEDs throughout the aircraft, which looks really nice when she's coming in the dusk. And obviously we've seen a lot of guys add more lights to her to make her even more scale, but those 11 LEDs look beautiful. You even got two pilots on the inside of the cockpit, which looks nice. You would think they wouldn't even bother trying to do that in there, but they got them in. And that'll about do it for the spec. So now, guys, let's get started with a step-by-step assembly. Okay guys, step one in the book is pretty clear. You're going to need to glue the two halves of the fuselage together. So what you're going to need for this is the provided glue. This glue works perfectly. And you're going to take these two carbon spars that also come in the baggie. You can see where they line up. There are just two holes on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way you go in. But the way I start is I glue those to one side first, so I get a little glue on the ends of those spars and get those in. I chose to go into the front of the fuselage first. Then what I like to do with the foam, whenever I'm gluing two pieces of foam together, I want to score it a little bit. So I take a razor blade and I just make a bunch of marks on any part that is going to touch another piece of foam. So it just creates more surface area and just, I think, will help with a stronger adhesion. And then also what I'm going to do with this, since this airliner fuselage is so long, I want to let gravity do the work. When I stick these parts together, I don't want to have them flat on the table where the top might start falling or sinking or anything. So what I did was I actually used the box itself. I put the nose into the box. I put glue on both sides. I pressed them together, letting gravity do the work, and then I pulled them apart for about 60 seconds. You want to get air into that mixture, and then I pressed them there, and I left it sit for about a half hour before I even touched it again, just to make sure that glue is not going to go anywhere. Alright guys, for step two, as far as this video is concerned, we're going to jump ahead in the manual a bit because I want to get to the stuff that I can do that I don't need the fuselage for, because if you're like me, you're going to be waiting for the fuselage to dry. So I say, let's get started on the wings. So the first thing you're going to have to do with this aircraft, and one thing the book will tell you, just make sure you read it, you have to drop the main landing gears on both wings before you ever attach them. So the way I did that was, makes it easier. You want to get yourself a servo tester, and then you're going to take these two screws where the ribbon cable wire is, and you're going to unscrew those. You want to find the fourth port. That's going to, you can see on the ribbon cable plate here, you can see where it shows you what's being plugged in. You have your ailerons. You should have two leads for, or one lead for an aileron, two flap, one for the gear, and then they have some lights plugged into this board. Pull out the lead for the gear, plug it into a servo tester, and then drop the gear. You're not going to be able to attach the wing again when the gear is retracted. You have to have it out and dropped in order to slide it on for this aircraft. So once you have the gear dropped, then you can take your two screws and put that ribbon cable back in on the side of the wing. Now the next thing you want to do is find your two nacelles. They will be labeled right and left, and also each wing in the molded plastic part where the nacelle will attach also has a label right and left. So make sure you have the right nacelle for the right wing, and we're going to get these installed. So first things first, you're going to have to grab 6 of the provided screws. The beauty about these screws provided with the AL37, there's only 2 different types. One baggie is going to have only 4 screws in it. Those 4 screws are for the main wing, so we're not going to need those for any other part. Every other thing that gets screwed in on this aircraft are all going to be the same type of screws like these, and I believe there's 12 of them total, so you're just going to need 6 for these 2 nacelles. So now when you're ready to put your nacelle on, you're going to have to feed in the motor wires. You'll see the red, yellow, and black motor leads. You want to make sure, I used a go-get-em wire to pull those through the wing, and then you should perfectly be able to line up the nacelle and drive in 3 screws for each wing. And when you're all done with that, you're going to have a mostly fully completed wing with a nacelle on it and the landing gear dropped, and we can move on to the next step. So now let's get the horizontal stabilizer secured. Inside the trough where your horizontal stabilizer are going to go, you're going to see your wing servo connector. So you just want to pull that out, make sure your connections are correct with the polarity, and then you just want to feed it back through, put the stabilizer into the place, and then drive in 2 screws. Again, it'll be 4 screws total for the entire horizontal stabilizer, but 2 screws for each side. After that's complete, the next step is going to be the vertical stabilizer. So the nice big tail, I mean, it's pretty clear how it's going to fit on there. Just look for the servo lead, make sure you have that, plug that in, make sure the polarity is correct, drop the tail on, and then you're just going to use 4 more screws to screw this down. So it's 2 on each side, and that should be all you need from those screws. That would finish off all the screws in that little baggie there. You'll just have 4 left for the main wings. Now we just got to get the main wings attached to the fuselage. You're going to take your long carbon spar. There's only one needed for this. You're going to slot that in. And now you're going to start making your connections. Make sure your carbon spars, because you have the one big spar, but then each wing also has its own carbon spar included that's going to have a little slot to slide into on the fuselage. But once it's all together, it slots in nicely, and then you're going to take 2 of those remaining 4 screws for each side of the wing and just find the holes where they match up and get those screwed in, and you have a virtually completed AL37 as far as assembly goes. Now at this point, guys, you're going to want to do your control rods. But before you do that, you're going to have to get your plane bound up. You never want to do this before you have your servo centered, so make sure everything is going. I like to have everything plugged in. So you can see how I did it. I went with a 10-channel Admiral, just basic receiver, but everything was plugged in nicely, guys. All the leads coming through the tail, you're just going to have to plug those into the blue box, and it's pretty self-explanatory where it goes, but the book will lay it out. We have 9 control rods in the baggie. So you can see here we have 314mm control rods. One of those is for the rudder, and the other 2 are going to be for the inboard portion of the flaps. You have 2 63mm push rods, so those are the second longest ones. They're for the elevator. The third longest ones are the 55mm push rods, and they're going to be for the outboard flaps. And then the smallest ones are the 40mm push rods, and they're for the ailerons. So it's pretty self-explanatory how it goes. Just follow this section of the manual. It tells you which holes to line it up in the servo and get those control horns all done. So now once your control rods are done, guys, now you're just doing all the peripherals. So what do we have left? We have the wingtips. So those just slot on like the MWS railing system. Very easy and self-explanatory. Then they give you 4 fins, and if you see them laid out on the table, actually each base of them is a different size, and it'll correspond to the little slit in the fuselage, because even in the book it doesn't show you exactly which one goes where, but just look at the slit on the fuselage itself, and only one can fit perfectly in one. So it makes it a lot easier to get those 4 on, but that's you just need a little bit of foam tack for, and they'll be on there nicely. And now, depending on where you did it, you're going to have to install your window graphics, and if you have the version like I have, you want to either pick Motion Airlines or Freewing or Flightline they give you stickers for. Obviously, if you're going to go with Freewing or Flightline, based on the manual, you're going to want to put that graphic on first, because the windows are going to go over the top of the graphic and make it look like, you know, the graphic was done around the windows. You definitely don't want to do the windows first if you're not going with that graphic. But we already have a video dedicated to how you put the windows on, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Just definitely read and make sure you get the right stickers in the right way. There are molded pieces on the fuselage, these little indents that'll help keep all the windows lined up straight. For both sides, there are 3 separate sections that you do for the windows from front to back. So just make sure you follow it right, and you should have no trouble keeping them on. And then obviously you're going to put the doors on, the 2 in the front and the 2 near the tail, with the only decals I did. The rest were all applied on my aircraft. But after she's all done, she looks gorgeous. So there you go, guys. Here it is on the table, all completed. It is definitely one of the more in-depth, I guess, assemblies. I always want to say the word build. We're just so used to it. But one of the more in-depth assemblies, because there's a lot going on here, like having to drop the landing gear first before you put the wings on. You know, in order to do this right, they did have to do a couple things differently from other Freewing offerings, and that's why this bad boy is different from any other Freewing offering. But when you have it, man, is she impressive. I mean, this is the first time I've actually been with one in a while, and it's incredible to look at it again. I remember when we had it dropped at Null in the fall around all our other products, it just stuck out like something completely different, right, Alex? It was just like
unbelievable.
Yeah, it was like, that is not our usual for Freewing, you know, obviously all the scale military jets, but to see what everybody's done with them now, and we even got guys putting 4 nacelles on to make KC-135s, Jeremy, and all the beautiful liveries keeping Callie busy. I don't think she's printed out more liveries for any plane probably in her life than this one, but I still prefer the original because this was the model that, you know, put Motion RC on it for the first time from Freewing. But now that we have it here, you see it's all plugged in. The thing that stands out to me about it is the LEDs. Obviously we have 11, so you have your nav lights, you have 1 green, 1 red, you have strobes on the outside, so it's 4 total, 2 on the inside, so that's 6, 1 strobe up top is 7, 1 strobe on the bottom is 8, 2 on the tail strobes, that is 9 and 10, and a nose gear light. So 11 LEDs, they really pop. And when we were at Null in the fall flying it, it was getting late, and it looks great at night. And I bet some guys have already done mods where they've lit up the inside, the cockpit, and that makes it great. And then Derek Mayer is one of our CS guys. He put some LEDs on the top of the elevators that shine up and light up the logo. So if you got a really cool tail livery, that would be amazing as well. Let's take a peek inside. Now, if you are running a 5000 6S Admiral, this is pretty much where I was getting CG. Pretty much the battery right in the middle of the strap for a 5000 Admiral, but definitely jump on Hobby Squawk, guys, because I think a model like this does have sort of a wider breadth of where you can go with the CG. And what's beautiful about this model too, they molded the CG marks right on the outside of the wing, so you can see it right there. We have a picture for you up close, so it is easy to get your CG on a model like this without having to do too much measuring, but you do have the measurements available to you in the book. So I just went with a standard Admiral, no gyro in a plane like this. You're not looking to do anything crazy, but a gyro could probably help because it is a big foam, you know, big piece of foam flying through the sky. So if you're flying on a windy day, she will get beat up a little bit, but, you know, for the most part though, she's a pretty stable flyer, and those wheelies and the landings are really what she's all about. But the landing gear itself is nice and robust. You can see when I press down, you got trailing link on the nose, and then those big tires on the mains, and really nice suspension, if you could see that, Alex. She could take some hits on the runway, ask me how I know, and you know, she will survive. She's great off grass as well. You know, she's a big airframe, and she takes off with all that power in those twin 70s. She takes off pretty quick if you want her to. You know, you can definitely fly her knot scale if you'd like to, and we have torture test videos that can show you all of that. So guys, I think that'll about do it here for the AL37 Airliner. All of these questions have probably already been answered by the customers who got them. Again, this video is coming out really for the people who are still maybe on the fence, don't know how it comes, or you're just getting into the Airliner now. We hope this video helped you out to get it assembled. So that's going to do it for us at Motion RC with the Freewing AL37 Airliner, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.